Okay, so at the risk of getting myself in some hot water, I thought I would talk some more about how to apply Dharma to some current events, because, you know, some of the things going on now are so emotional for people, you know. But I really believe that if we're going to practice Dharma, we have to do it in really tough emotional situations. So here I'm thinking of the murder of Trayvon Martin, the young man who was walking home from the grocery store when a vigilante person on neighborhood watch thought that he was up to no good and wound up killing him. And it's so completely sad, you know, because the kid was unarmed and, you know, getting candy and iced tea from the grocery store and was almost back to his dad's girlfriend's house and minding his own business. And here this other, you know, this other guy kind of, you know, sees him as suspicious. And under Florida's law, claims, one of Florida's law called Stand Your Ground, claims that he is not guilty of a homicide because he was being threatened. And he was just acting in self-defense. And even though this murder happened in February, until now, Zimmerman, the name of the guy who committed the murder, has not been arrested. So it's really a pretty outlandish thing that's going on in many, many ways in terms of our justice system, in terms of racial discrimination, because Trayvon was black and Zimmerman was white, in terms of just a child losing his life when not doing anything wrong. So if you think about this from a Dharma point of view, here were two people who were total strangers that night, you know, didn't know each other from anything. And then look at this event that happened that kind of, you know, I mean, in Zimmerman's mind, something was going on. There was intention, there was inflictions, there was karma being created by his mind and what he intended to do. But like, what was it that drew these two people in this weird situation that neither of them thought would occur that morning when they woke up? You know, because they probably both woke up that morning and like, okay, you know, what else is new? And, you know, here we are. And then by that evening, one of them was dead, and the other one, even though he's still alive and hasn't been arrested, he has to live with this for the rest of his life, knowing that he killed somebody, and live with everybody else's upset with him, you know, and he's 28 years old. So here you have two people who are quite young, one 17, one 28, whose lives completely, irrevocably changed, even though they were total strangers, and neither one of them expected this to happen. Okay? So when you look at it that way, that you have to believe in karma. Yeah? Because how else could you explain this kind of strong event happening, besides there being some impetus from the past that, you know, we have no awareness of with our standard mental consciousness, because we don't have any of the super normal powers that can see other people's karma or see the past or whatever. But, you know, this kind of thing is like a clear indication of some heavy karma. I mean, in Trayvon's life, having the karma from a past life, you know, that was a heavy negative karma that would lead to what's called, you know, this interruption of life, you know, an unnatural or an untimely death. Yeah, because he may have been born with the karma to live a long life, but when you have a heavy karma that interferes with it, then you have an untimely death, and that karma to live that full human life has been cut off. It'll ripen again in another human life, but not in that particular one. Yeah, so, you know, here's this very heavy karma that both of them are bringing into the situation. One, you know, the negative action to be killed. One, you know, also the negative action, probably from killing, but here it ripens as the result similar to the cause, where it's the habituation of killing. Yeah, so one's experiencing the result similar to the experience, being killed. One's experiencing the result similar to the action, which is killing. Yeah, and then both of them, depending upon what's going on in their mind, creating more karma. Yeah, for more rebirths and more suffering. Yeah. And so, how do we look at this just on a human level? You know, you can get really upset and really angry. You can get really confused. Or you can look at it with compassion, you know. And compassion for Trayvon, the whole nation has compassion for him. You know, it's much harder having compassion for Zimmerman. But, you know, when they talk about our lives being under the control of afflictions and karma, this is a prime example. What was going on in his mind? He was totally under the control of afflictions and karma. The mind could not think clearly at that point. You know, no awareness of karma, of right or wrong, or anything. The mind completely overwhelmed by ignorance. You know? So can we look at somebody like that with compassion? Yeah. And knowing that whether he gets arrested this life or not, definitely in future lives he's going to experience the suffering result of what he did. But then when you look at this and, you know, why hasn't there been an arrest? And you hear about what else has gone on in the Sanford Police Department, you get a feeling that there's a lot of shadiness going on, and a lot of, you know, good old boy stuff going on that is manifesting not only in this situation, but in previous situations in that same county, you know. I mean, I just have this gut feeling like there's a lot of people covering up for a lot of people about different things, yeah. And so having compassion for all those people, even though what they're doing is unethical, even though we may feel totally repulsed by it, you know. Having compassion for Trayvon's parents, who are completely freaking out, you know, by the death of their child. And then you think of Zimmerman's parents also, you know. I mean, I would have a hard time being a parent, and then, you know, here's your child who committed a murder, and you remember that kid when he was a baby, and thinking, you know, I brought into life this sweet, innocent baby that, you know, then does that. Yeah, of course the father says it was in self-defense too, but of course he's the father, so what else is he gonna say? Yeah, but to look at this as just, I mean, this is the meaning of being under the control of afflictions and karma. And this is why we have to get out of samsara. And this is why, if we're going to keep our sanity in the whole thing, we have to cultivate compassion. Because if you start getting upset at this thing, you just go crazy. You know, you just don't go completely crazy with the injustice of the whole situation. Yeah, and then it's very easy for anger to arise on our part. Anger and partiality and wanting to inflict harm. Yeah, as, you know, our weird idea of justice, you know, means inflicting harm on somebody else. I wonder how justice came to mean retaliation, you know? I would like to see our country come up with a different definition of justice. But I think we have to practice love and compassion in this kind of situation. Yeah. And so that's in the daily news. And then the other thing in the daily news is that His Holiness won the Templeton Award for his contributions to, spirituality in the world. What? Yeah, science and spirit. It's for his work in science and spirituality, but because of his contribution to, leading sentient beings in a good direction in the world. So you have that in the news too. So it's, it's reading the news is, you have to watch your mind, because your mind goes this and this and this and this and this. And it's like, and all it is words, it's ink, black and white on a screen or on a piece of paper. Yeah, that's all it is. And yet we, interpret the symbols into, give them meanings, and then different kind of, attention, some of it inappropriate attention, some appropriate attention. Then afflictions arise, then we create karma, depending upon what we're thinking in reaction to what we read. Yeah. So it's not like we're just innocent observers to this whole thing, Our minds are drawn in as well. So we have to make sure that we're not controlled by afflictions and karma in this whole situation. And in the meantime, make prayers for the well-being of all these people involved in so many different ways. Yeah. Some with minds with little intention, some with minds with good intention, some with minds with quite distorted and perverted intention.